Call this meeting of the Landmarks Advisory Board to order, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
You all.
It used to be over there. Buddy?
Roll call.
Commissioner Jan,
Present.
Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Settlemeyer,
Present.
Commissioner Cox has an excused absence, Commissioner Riles,
Present.
Commissioner Robinson,
Present.
and Commissioner LaGrasse.
Okay, we need the approval of the October 4th, 2023 on page 3 through 6. Have we read it? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those for approving the minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we have business from the public. Is there anything? Is it just Chris?
Yep, your turn.
Come on, Chris.
Geez, I'm first?
Yep.
What do I even do? Do I stand up there?
You can come and have a seat in front of one of those.
If you want
Can I
to.
hold the microphone?
Oh, it picks up. But the question is, can you sing?
Right. Okay. So, hi, I'm Chris Gustafson. I run a small business called Vintage Window Restoration here in Albany, down on Water Street. Been here 12 years, something like that. So, anyways, I hold a lot of educational workshops, and I've been communicating with the Cumberland Community Center about doing a small little May workshop as a Preservation Month activity. And one thing led to another, and I'm looking for sponsorships. The State Preservation Office is considering it. I'm looking at a tourism grant to broaden its reach and attain funding. And I'm coming here giving you guys the spiel to see if it's of interest in a partnership and doing this sort of thing. And so I made a presentation because I'm used to doing that when I teach for college, because the students like to see flashy things. And so I put a little show so I also don't get lost in this whole spiel. So there it is on the screen. You can see the general idea of what it is. 4-point days workshop. And can you guys guess where this is? In Oregon. I always do this to the students. It always blows their mind.
Is the Cumberland right there on the top of it?
Yeah, it is. It is. You get the prize.
Is that an eagle cap?
No, it's in Washington. It's a trick question. I'm really mean like that. That's the North Cascades. Anyways, okay, next slide. So the theme is, because I'm presenting for the Oregon Heritage Conference in April, their theme is making space. And so I'm kind of taking it one step further of me presenting on community engagement through educational activities for the public. I'm not just going to talk about it for 3.5 hours, but I'm going to create a workshop to actually do it and teach these people to go, come to Albany, learn about window restoration, yes, but also about community engagement, also putting together workshops of their own so that they can take their knowledge and what they learned from those 4.5 days to go to their communities and hopefully create more of it. Because I've been doing it for 7 years for different agencies, and I am seeing the effects that it's taking place in places like Cottage Grove or La Grande, or even up in Washington or in Bend. And so I want to make this thing where I can work with these people and then they can go off and do what I've been doing. And that way it empowers their communities to do something greater rather than hoping and wishing and talking about it. There is someone there that can do it, and they don't necessarily have to hire me or that one other person from far away to do it for them. So I'm trying to create something bigger than what I can do and have a bigger impact than what I can do. So next slide. Scope of work, there it is. It's those 5 windows. They're very large, but they're incredibly ideal because of the condition that they're in. This helps Cumberland. They get 5 windows fixed. These people use them as actual work subjects. It'll be the window sash. It will be the jambs. It's going to be the full restoration process. There will be a little bit of carpentry. And then, of course, basic glazings and paint, and talking about all of the different spectrums that it takes to restore a historic window based on Secretary of Interior standards. So it's not a very hokey pokey operation, but this is the thing that has been set forth for standards by the what is it? Come on, Department of Interior for preservation standards, like National Park Service stuff. Next one. And those windows are applicable to homes too. That's the big one. I don't often run into workshops, especially with places like that, where you can take your knowledge and adapt it to a house if need be. So they get to have 2 parts of the world. They can have a commercial aspect or a church or what have you, but also it's for a residential aspect. So that's why I really appreciate identifying those windows as the target windows to do this activity. I am applying for different grants. So there's certain requirements that I have to fulfill, such as making it more appealing for folks from out of area to come to Albany. I would like to get someone from different regions to participate in this, but it's also very open to locals here in Albany. You know, I've held 2 of them now over my 12 years here in town, and every single time they've always wanted something bigger and better. And so this is really kind of shooting for the moon kind of operation. I'm well accustomed to field schools as well as 1-week workshops. So that's well within my experience of doing this. So now I want to take it to Albany and make this big thing where we can really show and shine and kind of brag a little bit around the state, saying we got the best window workshop from very, very far away. What is it? Contractors wanted, folks can sit in. And I'm trying to make it more formal. I worked with the Historic Hawaii Foundation in creating their workshop over in Honolulu. And so they had an application process, and that really got a lot of commitment from a lot of folks and a lot of formal setting, so that people take this a little more seriously than it's just a little walk-in thing. You get some donuts and coffee. You're actually here to get an education. So you get more of the serious applicants to apply. And there's 12 spaces available. That's my ideal number. But there can be more, especially from the local community. So I'm always keeping it open for everyone. And experience-wise, picture, I've even worked with volunteers for Filson Clothing Company up on Lookout Towers. That's my little soft spot, is being up in the mountains. And so I've worked with colleges, and I've worked with universities, and I've worked with corporations, as well as volunteers and homeowners. Okay, next slide. What are learning objectives? Window sash restoration, conservation renewal. I don't know if these terminologies, people know what it all means, but the idea is you're taking a window or a window jamb that's in really rough shape, you're treating it as a historic artifact that it is, and you're doing the proper treatments to it to make it a well-preserved and fully functional piece of craft, piece of art, piece of history. And from there, you do it in the standards that are set forth, like I said, with the National Park Service, and doing it from the very start to the very finish, all the way down to using specific types of paints that are recommended for historic structures. So that's the learning objectives, as well as countless random tangents and tips. Yeah, I'm really good at going on tangents, if you guys haven't noticed. So, location. Location-wise, so the field work, there's 2 scopes to this aspects. There's the field work, which takes place at the church. They're learning to operate on site. They're learning safety practices, lead safe practices, tripping hazards, proper setups. And then also there's the shop work. Working safely in a shop. What is a good shop environment? How can they adapt, what is learned from a full-blown window restoration facility, but they can also have it set up in a garage. We had our first window workshop here, what is that, 7th and Walnut? And it was out of a garage. And there was like 3 windows that we worked on, and it was super fun. And that's what got us kind of a foothold here in town. And so being able to take it from the big picture of this overwhelming facility but being able to have them learn what's essential to take it to bring it into a small space if need be, you know. So there's a lot of room to hang out at the shop. It's perfect for a learning environment. And it's right on Water Street near downtown along the Willamette River. It's perfect. That's me in Idaho on Windows, of course. So schedule-wise, held in May. It'd have to be the 6th to the 10th. I am going to Colorado for staff training for Historic Corps for the second half of May. So best time is May 6th to the 10th. 4.5 days, same as Historic Corps. It's a 9 to 4, and then Friday is 9 to noon. This is really ideal for people from coming out of area to stay here at hotels or Airbnbs. So there's the 4.5 consecutive days. They show up Monday morning, and then they can leave Friday afternoon to go home for a weekend. So that's the formula that I've learned from Historic Corps, working with them, and that works best for their volunteers. So that's the concept for people coming here for this type of workshop. Yeah, okay, next one. Marketing wise, so there's already interest in the community. I've been talking to a few folks here. For me, I have some resources in drawing people in. It's not fun to set this all up and have to register. So I have a stash of people from Historic Corps as well as Clatsop Community College. I could potentially get one student to be my assistant or intern with me to get college credit for this. And then I am giving my spiel to the Oregon Heritage Conference, and that will be a part that I'll be marketing it with as well. And then the State Historic Preservation Office will be able to market this activity with me if they sponsor in partnership. So we'll have the state with us, and we'll have other agencies with us to kind of bolster this up and then get the word out further. Of course, we got the Cumberland folks with the volunteers or friends of, help educate them so that they can do the work themselves and not spend a ton of money on contractors. It's very expensive now. Working with the city, Downtown Soch, Albany Visitors, Preservation Office. I'm always open to more people, spreading the word around and making new friendships. So that is what I have to offer in the marketing. We did put in the budget to solicit this through our website. We do get inquiries from people from different parts of the country asking about when my next window workshop is. And so now if I can put the funding towards some of the marketing, then that can show up in the pop-up as well as be more SEO search optimized when people are looking for window workshops to travel to. I'll pop up at the earliest, and then they'll be able to register with me and then come over and do this whole thing. So I have 3 people on my bucket list now through the website. So, and they're from all over South Carolina. There's one guy from San Jose, California. And then there's one more, but I forgot. I'm up on stage. Okay, next slide. Is there a next slide? There's a next slide. Budget, I'm shooting for the moon. It started off at 14,000, but now with SHPO's potential sponsoring, I decided, well, if they're gonna put in 20 grand, I'm gonna bring it up to 22,000. And that's really for catering. We're gonna make not just an educational experience for them, but also a mini little window toolkit. And that way, when they're done, they'll take their little bag of specific tools that are very diverse, but very practical, and some foundational materials, as well as the Window Preservation Standards collaborative book, so that they all take this book home with them with all the different aspects of window restoration that's been compiled by professionals across the country. So that's the account of it. It also does include my wages for putting this all together and instructing, as well as having one workshop assistant. And I have that young lady in mind, and she's fantastic, and she's from the Clatsop Preservation Program, runs her own little business. And so I want to support her to try to get her in and pay her to assist with this workshop, and then she can also network and grow from that as well. So I'm trying to bolster local businesses, bolster local craftspeople, as well as work on Albany's tourism and get people here, as well as be seen for Preservation Month and other kind of preservation efforts, and just trying to create this thing from out of nothing and see where it can go. So you can see my guest asking, The Albany Tourism Grant, that's not going to be 10,000. I submitted the application, but they have 5 people apply for it. So I'll be lucky if I get 2,000. So there you have it. I'm really hoping SHPO sponsors. That'll take care of a lot of problems. So I'm trying to fill the budget gaps is all. And I'm trying not to make a large price for people to attend. I'm trying to keep it free for them so that if they do come to Albany, they can spend their money in Albany, because a hotel room's $150 a night, $180 maybe. Then they got to eat out for dinner, breakfast and lunch is provided. And then maybe they'll do some shopping downtown, okay, because they're into that. So I'm trying to keep this low on the attendance, but also try to get some cash in here through that aspect. Next slide. Okay, benefits to you guys, huh? See, I thought of all this. What's even in it for you guys? Of course, Best Window Workshop, Preservation Month in Oregon, probably even Washington and California. Got to compete with your neighbors. Well-trained, educated community, less vinyl headaches. I did already save one house from going vinyl last week, so that'll even spread its influence. You guys don't really have to work much. I'm pretty much doing everything, and I have been doing everything, and that's fine. I'm enjoying it. And I can come up and tell you guys what's been going on and show you more pictures of mountains and try to get you guys to guess, but I'm always trying to trick you. All right, next slide. Oh, and there's me. Can you guess mountains? There you go. And I always end my college lectures with some advice to the students. And here's some for you guys. Explore nature's beauty and wilderness. You got Jefferson Wilderness, Mount Washington. You got all of these beautiful places to explore. And eat food and exercise, because that's a great way to live your life. And get rid of your smartphones. Read a book, knit a sweater, write a novel. That's what I'm doing. And love your spouse and family, not Facebook. Is that it? One more of mountains. Could you guess? So anyways, do you guys have any questions for me, or I don't know what the process is from here on out? That's Lyman Glacier, Glacier Peak Wilderness. Yeah, Spider Gap is that saddle over there. We'll sit down. Okay, cool.
That it?
Thank you guys. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, Jim.
I can't read the name on here. Rap?
Liz Rapp.
Oh, Liz, okay. Do you want to speak?
Sure.
Okay.
Want me, is there anything you need to do from the staff before I do that?
Well, is this part of the Cumberland, or is it?
Yes.
So,
A short and sweet presentation, so you guys. Let's see if anybody else has anything not Cumberland before we get into that part.
yes. So is anybody have anything to speak on or questions or whatever that's not related to Cumberland and the national landmark? Nope. Okay. So you're part of Cumberland, right? So we'll do it as part of what they're going to present. So now we'll get to staff.
All right, so I made you guys a little presentation. So this is the Cumberland Church National Register nomination recommendation. So this is our normal screen. We're not following that. So today we are acting as an advisory board to the State Historic Preservation Office. So they are the ones that are reviewing the National Register nomination. And as the certified local government where the nomination is coming from, we have the opportunity to basically have our consideration given weight in the process. So we provide a recommendation in the form of a letter with comments, and then they take that into consideration when considering if they're going to recommend to the federal level that the Cumberland Church be nominated.
When the state does it, right?
Correct, yes. So the state reviews the nomination request first, and if it passes the state review board, it then gets forwarded to the federal level.
Okay.
Yep. So I believe, and Liz will probably go into this, I believe the meeting is mid-February, but I could be wrong. So we just need to get our comments in before then, and they take that into consideration as part of the record. So this is the Cumberland Church. We're using a photo I took last November. It looks different now. They've done a lot of good work. And then in general, we have three options. We can recommend approval of the listing. We can recommend approval with conditions or basically reservations. So if there's anything that sticks out to you, you guys can point that out. Or option 3 would be recommend denial of listing. So, and again, this isn't a formal land use review process. We're advisory in this only. So that is all I think that we need to consider. And then any questions?
So we got this pretty little big packet here. So
Yep.
what is the next?
So after this, Liz is going to come up. I've got a presentation for her. She's going to kind of walk you through the National Register listing. And then you're basically going to let me know, like via a vote, if you guys want to proceed with a letter recommending approval, approval with modifications or reservations, or denial. So we're basically just writing a letter in support with reservations, or against. So that's what we're doing as part of this process. We're not the formal decision makers. It's just an opportunity to provide some additional support at the state level.
So you were saying with reservations or with conditions, right?
Yeah, conditions or
Basically-
reservations. Like, for instance, we generally support approval. However, X, Y, or Z, isn't great, is an example of something we could write. Like, let's say, we'd love to support it, but the fact that it was moved makes it hard for us to support. That's a more, something that actually applies in this situation. But you don't have to. I mean, if you just support it, we just support it.
Okay.
That would be an example of, support with modifications or reservations.
Well, I'm used to the ones that we always get as submitted or as,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. I know this one's a weird one. We don't get
Yeah,
these.
it is. Okay.
Yep. All
So-
right.
Where are you moving now?
We are gonna switch over to Liz's presentation, and she's gonna come up and talk to you about what she's put together.
My slides are really boring compared to Chris's. So just plain old slides. Hi, I'm Liz Rapp. I live here in Albany, and I've been researching the Cumberland Church for 5.5 years.
Can you give your address?
1951 Kodiak Avenue Southwest. Basically, Albany's Cumberland Presbyterian Church has been neglected for many years. And I think the slide that Alyssa showed, the picture you took last fall, shows the condition it was in after it had been re-roofed, but did show a lot of the neglect. Now in front of you is a picture of the church as built in 1892 and the way it looks tonight, actually, probably. Recognize, most people don't realize that the church was a one-room meeting house style church. Notice that it's just that old typical straight square or rectangular box with a side steeple added to it. And I just wanted to give you all context of what the church looked like in 1892. Next slide. In Albany, we typically credit the Monteith brothers for founding Albany, but more important than that, from the perspective of where that church sits, is that Abner Hackelman was actually the first European American to come to Albany. He arrived in the fall of 1845. He led a large group of people who settled in Lynn County called the New London Emigrating Company. The church sits on the center, basically, of the Hackelman donation land claim. And his great-granddaughter, Winona, was one of the teachers at the church, and she actually married a gentleman from, Waterloo area, who was a preacher at the church and also a president of Albany College. I was able in my research to find the list of the 22 founding members. Next slide. And I know you can't see it, but this is the handwritten list from the late 1800s of that founding congregation. Trying to keep this short and sweet so that at the end, if you have questions about the application in your packet, I can answer them. Basically, we have been accepted under National Register Criteria C, which is architecture. Typically, they do not list churches anymore under Criteria C because there's so many churches that are historic buildings, and you need to meet some very special guidelines in order to be accepted. Ours is the fact that it is a simple one-room meeting house style church that has had the Queen Anne design added to it. Just so you know, in the year that the church was built, that land was outside of Albany city limits. If you look at the Sanborn fire insurance maps, they stopped before there, and there was pasture land all around the church and an outhouse behind the church you can even see on the Sanborn maps. The architect for the church was Wilhelm J. Bennett, and he turns out to be, in his approximately 10 to 12 year history in Oregon, quite a prolific designer of buildings, and several of those are on the National Historic Register. The church is listed because it's a Queen Anne style church. It has that elaborate ornamentation all across the front, the bell tower with the arches and the peaks. It has gable ends that are highly decorative. When you look at the church, you're going to see a couple of styles of the imbricated or overlapping shingles on it, rosettes, brackets, corbels, sunbursts, a lot of different ornamentation. The front of the church has multi-plane colored glass windows, and all of the side double-hung windows that are original were also the small multi-pane colored glass. And it has an amazing 11-panel door, entry door, which someday will be hopefully used again. That recently was uncovered because when they remodeled the church at one point in time, they sheetrocked, or not sheetrocked, lath and plastered in those days over the door on the inside. So it was just a wall, but that now has been opened up. Our criteria A as design is because Queen Anne churches are very rare. The SHPO database for religious facilities lists 846 different religious facilities in Oregon. SHPO is State Historic Preservation Office. 31 of those are Queen Anne style, 3.7%. The majority of the churches in Oregon are Gothic based, or a Gothic style, as you can see. And Albany's Cumberland Presbyterian Church is the most elaborate of any I've seen. I traveled to at least 10 churches, but I also printed out the 31 churches on the SHPO list and researched them all to have pictures, and that's how I chose which ones to use in my comparison of Albany's church. And chose the 10 most elaborate, and then wrote up comparisons of most of those. Moving the church. So this is criterion consideration B, which is important to explain why the church has been moved. Essentially, it was required to save the building from demolition. When Mayor Canopa was the mayor in Albany, 2017, she developed a mayor's historic properties work group to determine what to do with the building, whether it could be sold or moved or just destroyed. The recommendation from the historic work group was to move it. And I think there were about 3 sites that were looked at to move it. And where it was actually moved turned out to be probably the easiest move. But also, my perspective is that it is the most significant because it's still on the Hackelman donation land claim. And it provides, in the future, now and in the future, it provides a nucleus to develop that area. I drove by Eleanor Hackelman Park on Christmas Day or afterwards, and someone was camping in the entrance to the park, or not to the park, in the entrance to the bathrooms, and it looked awful. And I noticed it's been cleaned up, but getting things like the church established as a community event center and getting some more pride in that southeast part of Albany will go a big way to making it even better. Next slide. So basically, I've talked about we are on the National Historic Register application because of design. The question is, why is this design important, and has moving hurt the church? I think moving has helped the church. The design is important because it's the only Queen Anne church in Albany. It's the second oldest church on Albany's east side, one of 4 pre-World War II wooden churches. It is considered by historians, and when I say this, I mean Roz Clark Keeney, as one of the 5 most significant historic churches in Albany. And as I said, you consider 31 Queen Anne churches in Oregon on SHPO's database out of 846. That's significant, and I think it's important to preserve and protect it because it's Albany's history. Any questions? You want me to go over that 63-page application?
No. Now, I went through the original tour when it was opened up, when you guys took it over. And they were explaining that the building was separated, and that center part
Added.
was,
1917.
The new location has no basement, right?
Correct. It did not originally have a basement either.
So that one stairway off the front door didn't go down anywhere, and so.
No, that was all added later, around 1931, which is not considered within the period of significance that this application is about.
So I noticed that you bring up the foundation a lot. So was it originally brick?
Yes.
Or, so now that it's cement, does that change any of the?
I don't think it does. I believe that it was recognized that we needed a regular concrete foundation in order to have structural integrity under the building once they moved it.
Anything?
Is the most important part about receiving the status the protection of the building, or what are you most trying to accomplish with this?
I think protection and respect for the building is the most important part. It causes it to be something that we can all be proud of, and hopefully helps improve the quality of neighborhood in that area also.
So there aren't that many buildings like that in Albany that are historical. There's a lot of houses. I know J.C. Penney's is on the historic landmark. Is that right, Bill?
Yep.
Okay, and there are a few, but I don't know why it took so long.
To do
So
this,
there's a couple ways it can get on the historic register of Historic Places. The Penny's building got him because it was part of the downtown historic district. I worked on the Children's Farm Home Old School, and it was a single site. And that came in under I think it's item B, work of a master. So there's sort of three rubrics from which these move forward. And in my opinion, the Cumberland could qualify on all three. I think it's a trifecta. The three things are a unique or excellent example of a particular style, and it definitely is a Queen Anne, which is rare and a very impressive example of that. It's also could be put in under the work of a master, because Wilmot Bennett was considered a master of his time in architecture, and it's one of his more significant buildings. And also a building that it's historic places, so does that building signify some historic event or change in history? You know, did George Washington sleep there, or did it bring something unique to the city of Albany? And when you connect it to the Hackelmans and that whole history, and the Cumberland Church itself and its type of philosophy that they had nationwide at the time, I think it really wins on all three. It runs on all three cylinders. I can't tell you how happy I am to see this happening. When Sharon and I were first involved with this, we talked about whether it should get national historic reference, and whether that, because it's quite a bit of work to do this. But I think it's absolutely important that I thought it then, and I think now, and I just want to thank everyone at the Cumberland for their hard work. And I wholeheartedly, I've done two others, and this one tops those. It's up there with the Children's Farm Home. That's a very unique. It's Georgian and a very unique for a lot of reasons. But this also is extremely important to the history of the town itself. It's an amazing style and unique style, and it's the work of a master. So I support it unequivocally.
Anything else?
I think Bill just volunteered to write the letter.
I will answer. He wonders about why it took so long. We were told we could not apply until the church had been moved. I had already begun the application with the State Historic Preservation Office in 2019 and 2020, and been in the old location and been accepted for writing an application. The process is you write the application originally to Oregon, to the State Historic Preservation Office. Once they accept or decline it, you know your next steps. Declining it means just go away. Accepting it means then you start the real work, which is the national application. So I began the original application 2019 and 2020 to the state. Then in 2020, we waited till the church was actually moved. And then I began to work in earnest on the rest of the application. I'm researching it all along, but really a focus in 2021 once the church was moved. But we did find that they wanted the church to be in better condition than it was in before we sent them the pictures of the church. So getting the church re-roofed and getting it painted was important. And that was the timeline that caused us to then send the application in December.
I also want to say that when we actually look at Albany's historic districts, we have about 5 properties that are individually listed. The majority of our properties are listed as part of one of our 4 National Register districts.
The downtown and the
Yep.
whatever.
Because when it comes to listing, it's a much easier lift to have everything build on each other. So you have like the Monteith district, and everything contributes to basically the foundation of why your district is listed. With an individual listing, the property or structure itself has to do all of that lifting and has to have all of that history. But with districts, you can rely on, everything in that area in order to get listed. So
I believe that the church is about, well, the original location of the church was 3 or 4 blocks east of the outer edge of the Hackelman Historic District.
So where it was moved from was the original location?
Yes,
Okay, because I know they used to move buildings like nothing
Albany
mattered.
Regional Museum, yes.
Yeah, well,
yes.
yeah, and even the church on, right next to the Chance Church.
Sure.
yep, that's actually another one that's individually listed.
Yeah, and it was moved to that location from the Monteith area into the Hackelman area, so.
There's also a lot of houses in the Monteith district that were moved for the highway. Yep, I mean, they just used to pick up houses and move them. Yep.
A note on that to keep in mind here is not only was it only moved 1,000 feet, the original orientation versus north, south, east, west has been maintained so that it, the sun comes up and goes down on it just like it did when it was built, which I think is an important factor as well to consider in your application.
Exactly, and it's still on Sandy Am Wagon Road or Sandy Am Road, which
Yeah.
is itself on the National Historic District
Wow.
or National Historic Register.
Yeah, it's all very well done.
A lot of work.
Any other questions?
Anything? Nope. Thank
Thank
you. What's our next step on this?
So we can have testimony from the public. I think ultimately the goal would be to have a vote about whether you guys would like to support via a letter the nomination. So we would write a letter basically to the state of Oregon. Bill could maybe write it, just voicing our support and why we support them, if that's the vote we take.
For the state Historic Preservation Office meeting is February.
Okay. Yep. So if we wanted to, we could potentially come back after somebody writes a letter. Could be me, could be Bill. And then you guys could have a chance to review it at the February meeting before it gets sent off.
So is it just a 1-2 page,
Yeah.
here we approve, whatever?
Yeah, it can be.
It's not,
No, so it's similar to when you guys get letters of support or, letters of recommending denial for your land use applications. In this event, we are going to be the person commenting. So it can be as long or as short as we want it to be.
so basically, my take, SHPO has already said, yay, let's go.
I would say they have at least said that there's something there. Prepare us a bigger report and tell us if you meet one of the 4 doors to being registered.
Okay,
And so this report is the basis of why they think they fit under C, which is architecture. And so they're going to evaluate whether it actually meets that. So they've said, yes, you're old, you're historic in some fashion, but are you historic in the right way?
okay.
Because they have just like a couple of ways to get listed.
So what do you think? Oh, does anybody excuse me, wish to say anything in support or against?
We're all here in support.
This is Lynn Larson. I'm listening on the phone because the link didn't work.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Can you hear? Okay, yeah. So I'm a member of Preservation Works in Corvallis, and we haven't discussed this as a group, but I am fairly positive that Preservation Works would support this nomination 100%. It's being researched very diligently and thoroughly, and it sure sounds like it's worth making the National Register. It's just a delightfully beautiful little building. I'm totally amazed at the work that's been done on it so far. That's it.
Is there any more?
Yeah, I think we should realize that one of the things SHPO is always concerned about on these applications is, are you going to do the work right? Do you have enough money to make sure it gets done and completed? And I think that's obviously why it's taken this length of time and care to get it moved correctly, to begin the restoration of it in the right way. Having Mr. Gustafson involved is a very great thing as well. He comes with a lot of respect, and the Cumberland people are doing this the right way. So I don't see that this will be difficult to get through the process, but it is a laborious and very technically detailed thing to have happen, and you need to take care of all of it. From our end, I guess it is a little like a letter of recommendation for a college student or something. I don't think it needs to be very long. I think it needs to be positive and direct. We don't need to go into a lot of detail. We just need to communicate that we understand what's involved and that we wholeheartedly support this. And I'll help staff work together on a little letter, and when we have more people from the committee available, we can go over that and see if we all think that that's a good thing. But unless there's other discussion, I move we support this with a letter of recommendation without reservation.
I would concur. I mean, they've obviously proven themselves as far as being able to get some things done on this. It's not languishing like it was for so long. It's in the right hands now. So I think we should throw our support behind it.
That's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay.
All right, Bill and I will draft a letter and we'll bring it back to you for February.
Okay, I have one question though, after the fact, is this was a larger project to begin with, that Bill had designed this big, extensive building. Will that affect any of this?
So once they're listed, the State Historic Preservation Office basically has to concur on designs that get submitted. So we would review them, and then the state would also have a chance to review. There are exterior alterations that have been done on other National Register properties, so it doesn't shut the door on that possibility, but it basically gets a second set of eyes on what they do.
Okay.
If it
I
goes
know.
forward with the master plan, then that whole process of an addition, and that was done very carefully as well. Actually, Christina Larson is the one who completed that process, and we were involved. Landmarks was, well, at least I'm confusing myself. It was really Christina working with the Cumberland people who looked at that addition, and that will have to go through a similar process. In fact, once this gets its national park recognition, then it will be even more difficult to be approved for an addition, and they'll take a close look at how that addition is configured and that it doesn't disrupt any of the existing fabric. I mean, it really does give the building more respect and more protection for whatever happens next, but it doesn't keep anything like that from occurring. You know, we're not trying to stop these buildings from being reused and expanding and taking a wider role in today's world, but we are very serious about maintaining their historic significance and the historic fabric in them. So I think it's good on all counts.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, because we're submitting this to get it in, and then we'll come back later and they'll resubmit for any alterations to the building.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it'll help for fundraising and maybe some tax purposes. And to be on the historic register gives the building more panache and more security in the fact that this is really going to happen, for people to step up and contribute the final funds that will turn this into a full-blown facility with this building at the heart, the crown jewel as it were, of whatever we do there.
What's the timeline for them to actually get this to the federal? Do you know? Is that like 2-3 years?
The wheels of government move slowly. It's kind of out of everybody's hands. So it goes to the state, and they're going to have a hearing in February, February 16th. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I believe that after the hearing, February modifications. Okay, after the meeting on February 16th, at which I'll be answering any of their questions, then I have one more opportunity to make modifications to the application, and it goes to Washington, D.C. by March 1st. So it's a very timeline.
Okay.
So do we need to be there to support you at all?
It'd be wonderful. I don't know. I've never done this before.
Last time I did it, the final, we actually were down in Roseburg for the one on the children's farm home, and there were 6 projects from Oregon happening over the course of the day. And so the location, it happens once a year. I believe it's in the summer in June or something, and you have to clear all the hurdles just mentioned. And then you get on the national parks, and the national parks hosts a meeting somewhere in the area, the district. For us, it was down in Roseburg. It could be anywhere. And you get that one crack at it, and it's done once a year. So everything has to line up.
I believe it now happens 3 to 4 times a year.
Oh, great.
On the wall in my office is the calendar for National Historic Register. And so December, March, and maybe July are the dates. And they do have the meetings, the final state meeting throughout the state, but the one on February 16th is in Salem. And there are, I believe, 3 or 4 other either properties or districts on the same agenda.
And you can go as a private citizen and give testimony at that hearing in favor of it or against it as well. And we had several people come and testify for the children's farm home. I think it was helpful.
So you'll let us know where it is and all that stuff?
Yes, I believe the agenda is posted online, so I'll copy that and get it sent out to everybody.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you say your name and?
My name is Emma Eaton. My address is 1620 First Avenue Southeast. I would just like to take the opportunity to invite each of you to come to this meeting. I have been in one of these meetings before, and they actually ask each person to talk. It made a difference. So please keep in contact and join us.
Any further?
I can supply with the agenda for the meeting on the 16th.
Any further on the Cumberland?
Nothing further for the Cumberland.
Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you. I would just say if you guys want to attend, if we get a quorum, we just have to let them know that we're having a public meeting. So we can do it, we can all go. We just have to advertise ahead of time that we're all going to be congregating in a single place.
Okay.
On kind of official business.
Official, non-official.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Article 7 updates. So if you're not interested in that,
Yeah, we said we were you can do it if you want.
we'll take 5 minutes. You turn the recorder off? Don't see him on the screen. Please live at the end next to
The end.
yeah.
So you're at swampland too.
Pardon?
You lived on swampland too.
Our backyard flooded every year. Water table was always flood out there.
Yeah.
Ready?
All right.
Sure, I can give a really brief update on Article 7. We have prepared 3 different types of surveys. One will be a social media-based survey. One will be a survey of of property owners of historic properties. And then the third one will be a set of focus group questions. And I have those, I submitted those to our director, Matthew Rutgers, and in order to vet those with him. And I can definitely bring those back to you at the next meeting and share what those surveys will look like. And as it comes to the focus group part of this process to update Article 7, I would really appreciate it if we could have one landmarks member attend each of the 3 focus groups. Not all 3, but if I could get a landmarks member to attend, commit to attend one of those focus groups.
You mean one of the group?
Yes.
Like they come in here and you do a focus group in City Hall somewhere?
Yes, or one of the meeting rooms, or, it doesn't even have to be in City Hall for that matter. It's just an opportunity to bring in 5 or 6 people representing different interests, and then having somebody, say, from Friends of Historic Albany attend, and then a landmarks member. I think that would be really good, because it would be good to hear from people on all sides of the issues as they're being discussed. And so I'd like that to ask if you're willing to do that.
So Rain and Mason?
Yeah.
I can do one.
Yeah.
I will do one.
Okay, that's
So
great.
whose term is ending this? Is it just me?
It's you and Jolene. Jolene has actually chosen not to re-up. So we will have a new person joining us at some point. I don't actually know who it is yet. They're winding their way through. I think everybody gets appointed sometime mid-January. And then,
City council meeting in January.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then just as a reminder, we're going to do elections in February. So be thinking about that.
Preservation Month is, now only 4 months away. It's crazy, but it's coming up again.
Well, it needs to start, we need to start working on that in February if we can.
I think so.
Chris is gone, but
Yep. So on top of that, this is a late addition to the agenda, but we're eligible for our CLG grant again this year. It's in the ballpark of 15,000. If less cities apply, we might get more money. So just kind of a general vibe check on what we're looking to spend money on. In general, it sounds like we favor assisting monetarily with restoration projects. So a pass-through grant to property owners,
So I'm definitely in favor. I was thinking about when you brought up May,
Yeah.
that one thing we really need to get ahead of this year is those pass-through grants. I think they're important, and we've done good with those in the past.
Yep, and we're well situated this time. I'm not hiring on in June. So we are ahead of the curve, unlike last time. So we were thinking pass-through grants and then additional funds earmarked for educational opportunities, whatever those look like.
Would that include what Chris Gustafson presented to us today, something like that?
Yes, it
Helping him
could.
out?
So with the CLG grant, the more vague we are, the less we have to go back to the state if we
Yeah.
decide to change what we're doing.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm just sort of among ourselves, I think. We stay vague in terms of what we want the money for, and then it gives us more flexibility in what we end up spending it on.
Correct, but yes, so keeping it vague like that for educational opportunities, educational training would allow us to fund a portion of the window workshop. How much we fund can be discussed at a later date. We just kind of have to generally earmark the money and tell them what we want to do.
That's great, because during the pandemic, we sort of missed out on that for quite a time, and it's nice. It's not a lot of money, but it seems to help, and a good thing to do every year we can.
Yep.
It's always good to have a carrot.
Yes, and I can tell you, I get calls throughout the year about grant opportunities, so it'll be good, especially for wanting to do pass-through grants. I get calls about it, so there's definitely a desire.
People remember when you give them money.
Yep.
And, I've vocalized in the past, like, I would like to see us help on small projects and maybe 1 or 2 medium to large projects. And I can think of a few hypothetical window projects in town that are languishing that maybe we could intervene and let them know that there is assistance or help. I think,
Yep. Again, it is only 15,000, and if you completely fund any one project, you have to do a bunch of additional work once you hit 10,000. So maybe we do 10,000 for a pass-through grant, maybe we do 8 and 7, 7 towards education, 8 towards pass-through. We can kind of figure out where the money goes. But my recommendation is everything stays under 10, because at that point you have to do competitive bid processes.
Certainly, yeah.
Yep.
So they have to submit a bid for everything they do?
They have to do a bid for everything they do. They also have to do a competitive bid process, which means they can't pinpoint the contractor ahead of time. They have to open it up for everybody and then do that whole thing. So basically, anytime you're awarding over 10,000 via a state or federal grant, you have to do a competitive bid process.
So that's only the 10,000. So if you break it down to 5,000, then it isn't as strict.
I think the way that the state has explained it to me before is any pot you're putting your money into. So if you have 10,000 in the pot for pass-through grants,
Okay.
even if you're giving every single person 5,000, I think cumulatively you might have to do a competitive bid process.
Great.
And I know in the past we've required that it be sort of in the way of matching funds.
Mhm.
So someone's not saying, well, I need $4,000 to do my porch. We're saying, well, we'll support half of an $8,000 porch or something. So that people are vested and they have money and time on the line here, and they're not just doing it because we would give them the money, but we're helping them get more done.
Yep. So all I'm looking for today is just a general idea of kind of what you think is the most important and generally what we want to fund. So is there any major category besides the educational opportunities and pass-through grants that we're interested in? Or do we kind of want to focus on those two?
I think those two, 15,000, like you said, doesn't go that far. So I think not spreading it too thin and focusing on those two makes sense.
Okay.
Agreed.
Casting a wide net and sending out many smaller grants seems to really give us a bigger footprint in the community. Even if it's only $2,500, $3,500, people really appreciate that, and they tell their neighbors. And it's always been surprising to me how effective a few dollars are in encouraging people to do things. And we've mostly focused on smaller things, porch, very visible front door porch kind of things, because they have a big visual impact. And because it encourages people to make those kinds of improvements and not let maintenance and those improvements slip over time. I don't think I think it has a much bigger impact than the dollars would reflect.
I agree. So do we need to make a decision at this point, or just the suggestions for you?
Just a suggestion. Basically, I need to turn in our CLG application, I think by February 1st. So we can modify it after we get the award. We just have to go back to the state. So I just kind of need to know generally, what do we want to fund? Sounds like pass-through grants and educational opportunities, and generally a ballpark of how much we want to go both ways.
Well, let's
50-50, is that?
line, that $10,000 line.
Yep.
So
The maximum I recommend is $9,999.
Yeah, that makes
Towards
sense.
any one project.
well, I would, in my opinion, I'm leaning towards 9,999 towards
Pass through.
pass-through, remainder to education.
So so getting the word out to the community, is that part of the same grant? Or is that another bucket you get out of, like sending out flyers for Historic Preservation Month?
That would be the same bucket.
Sounds like education.
So
Yep.
that was quite a bit of money, wasn't it? Mailing all those out?
Mhm.
Or,
I think usually you're looking at 1,000 with mailings.
and how about the thing with the real estate agents and that kind of stuff that we were talking about at the beginning of the year last year? That's education for the agents and the Oh, the funding, notary or,
Yeah,
Escrow.
that could also fit under educational opportunities or a third smaller award.
because wasn't that kind of one of the important things that we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Was to get them to understand they just can't do what they want to with an historic home.
Yeah, that can be under educational outreach or training.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the term education is we can stay pretty vague and keep our options open.
Training and outreach, it covers a lot.
yeah, okay. So what are you wishing that we'll be able to get off of this from the state?
I mean, $15,000. If less communities apply, then you get a little bit more, but I would imagine we can't get more than 17,000 out of it. So
Okay.
from there, just we're doing educational opportunities and a pass-through grant.
Okay,
We've never had any trouble spending it.
no,
Nope.
that help?
Yep, that helps. I'll get the application together and apply to the state.
Was that it for the Article 7 and the additional?
Yep, that's it. Is there any business from commissioners?
Do we have anything?
Happy holidays, everyone, and thank everyone for coming back this year.
The only thing I would say is we need to be thinking about what we want to do for Preservation Month. So start
Certainly.
getting ideas in your head to bring to next meeting because we need to hit the ground running in February.
Yep, let's have that as homework for February. And I think Corvallis is gearing up their plan again. We'll probably coordinate with them, see if there's any overlap. Maybe they have some funds they'd like to contribute to a window workshop. I don't know.
I think they did one last year with Chris.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
they're getting more active, so it's good.
Okay, is that it from the
Yep.
commission? Okay, our next meeting is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024, and we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Roger that.